GP Soccer Podcast.
And welcome to the GP Soccer Podcast, Conversation with the Coach. Great guest today. One of my longtime friends and colleagues from up in Canada. Our guest today is Giovanni DeBenedictis. And by way of introduction, John holds an honors Bachelor's of Science degree in Physical Education and Health Education from York University. He holds the Advanced Coaching Certificate from York University and NSCAA Advanced National Diploma, Canadian Soccer Association Pre-B Provincial license. He played his collegiate soccer at York University as a goalkeeper, and he helped them win a national title back in 1977. Went on to play some semi-professional soccer in the National Soccer League with the Toronto Ukrainia. He has over 40 years of coaching at all levels, including the international level. His current role is the Executive Director of the National Soccer Coaches Association of Canada. He is the author of The Last 9 Seconds, The Secrets to Scoring Goals on the Last Touch, and he's the creator of the Golden Goal Scoring Course based upon extensive research into perceptual motor learning and visual motion perception. Giovanni DeBenedictis, my good friend from Canada, welcome to the GP Soccer Podcast, Conversation with the Coach.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Listen, before we get started, the bulk of our conversation, as you and I noted before I hit the record button here, is going to be talking about your book, which, by the way, John, is a beautiful book. It is a beautiful book. You were very gracious to send me a copy, and when I opened it up, not only is it extraordinarily comprehensive, extraordinarily detailed, and terribly interesting, it's just a beautiful book. The pictures, the graphics, the way it's laid out, it's a great book, and it is worthy of everyone's coaching library. So we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the book in a little bit. But before we get started, share with my audience. I have a global audience, and I like to, if I speak to someone from another country, like in this case with you up in the great country of Canada, what's the general overview of the soccer landscape in Canada? I know that's a big question, but from the youth, to high school, college, the professional, and certainly at the international level with your men's and women's national teams. What's the soccer landscape look like in Canada?
Yeah, well, thanks very much for that, Giovanni. That was very kind of you. Certainly, Canada has, really raised everything about the game. We're in the World Cup second time. Obviously, we're the hosts, but didn't expect to qualify last time. But our national team, men's national team, I'm talking about, really performed well. We got players now playing all over the world, so we're doing fantastic in that, best we've ever in terms of ratings. Women's team's always been kind of up there, as you know. And in terms of the youth system, kids are playing soccer, packed with soccer, clubs, academies, private academies. And of course, we have our pro team, the MLS, the 3 teams, Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal. And now there's a new league, the Canadian Professional League, CPL, which has, I believe, 7 or 8 teams. And, they're starting to pick up momentum. Now there's a new women's professional league that just started this year. So, things are looking up. And certainly to me, when I go work with the kids, I just see our fields are packed with kids every night. Even if there's nothing planned, like non-organized, in the middle of winter, you could have a field just down the street from me, and people go there with their shovels and shovel the snow off the turf, and you see all sorts of small-sided games just happening. And I think that's what you need. Kids are loving the game. So I think it's generally things are pretty good. We have our problems, like I think every association does, but as long as kids are loving and enjoying the game, I think things are looking.
As an American looking north to Canada, the perception is it's a hockey country, and there are more kids playing hockey than soccer. But that's not the case, John. Is that correct? There's more kids playing soccer than hockey?
Yeah, so that statistics, soccer overcame hockey in terms of participation, maybe 20-odd years ago. It's just that back then it was all mostly recreational, so there wasn't much extra competitive. I mean, there was, but maybe it was 75%, as we call house league or recreational. So they didn't take it that seriously. It was just something to do. Um, Whereas now, I'd say most of the players who are playing in some sort of more competitive leagues and academies. Um, Coaches are all paid for the most part now, as opposed to all volunteers, because I'd say 75% now are playing, on a higher level, highest as they could go. They've reorganized things. So there's a lot of player development leagues. Sometimes those are controversial because there's a lot of pay to play situations. I think you guys have that down there. But
Do we ever?
yeah, but generally, as long as the kids love playing and go outside of their regular training sessions to find a game somewhere, I think that's great, and I think that looks good on the game, especially with the males. Like when I do go out and about, you'll see that the females, it's all organized. They're not maybe playing as many outside games, say, just on a recreational basis. Well, I mean recreation, I mean like pickup game, um, compared to boys. But certainly, in the organized, um, there's a lot of women's and men's as well. So
Now you,
yeah.
now you mentioned pay to play, and my audience is going to know exactly what I'm about to say. If they're regular listeners to my show, I have gone on a tirade regarding the pay to play system here in the United States and how it is the Achilles heel of player development, here in the United States. So you mentioned that it is in existence, obviously, up in Canada. To what degree do you think, John, the whole pay to play up in Canada is affecting, if at all, the development of players? Is the game being, out of touch for a lot of communities because of the expenses? What's the layout? Or what's the issue with pay to play up in Canada?
Well, I mean, there are some issues where, to make, say, a provincial team, which is similar to a state team, they're saying you have to play in a certain league or they won't even consider you. Um, and and those leagues tend to be expensive to play in, $5,000-$10,000 per year per player. Um, so, there's some controversy there as to, why should someone be forced to play in a league where they have to pay so much to be in a provincial program, and then and to be recruited to a national team program, you have to be in the provincial program. So there's a lot of debate about that and controversy going on. But there's also a lot of private academies, ex-players who want to stay in the game and they start their own little private academy. Maybe they're not playing in these high price leagues. I mean, parents still have to pay, and then they may invest by giving some players a break, and especially the ones that they think that they can send to Europe. And I guess they're hoping for a payback if someone gets signed. So, it's, pay to play is a problem, but I don't know that there's that many options because, in Canada it's quite cold. So if you want to rent ability to play soccer in the, between October and March, you need turf. Um, so that's not cheap, and then you need these domes, which is even more expensive. Um, Plus, with all our cities, they used to rent things for free. They don't do that anymore. They all have budget restraints, so they look to sport. So there's going to be a certain amount of money parents are going to have to pay. Um, the high school system, which is all free, it's not really, you know, they might play, I don't know, 10 games a year. It's not like serious as it is down there. So that doesn't provide much high development opportunity. Usually the better players don't play high school soccer.
And are you finding, John, that communities that are of the lower socioeconomic level, if you will, are they being shut out? What are the challenges for folks who come from those communities that can't pay? Are they are they being prohibited from playing soccer? Because as you probably are aware, as much as I am in my audience, some of our best players come out of those lower socioeconomic communities. Are some great creative players, but they're shut out from getting on board. Whether it's in Canada or the United States, on board with the system because they can't afford it. Are you seeing that? Are you experiencing that? Or do you know of that very issue up in Canada?
Yeah, I think it exists to an extent, no question, but somehow I think um, the better players, if they're exceptional, someone might pick up their tab or give them a break. You saw it with Alfonso Davies,
Mm.
poor family, and yeah, some academy allowed him to come up there in I think the Edmonton area and play without charging him as much. But uh, it was an individual who ran an academy there, and he helped him along the way, and then he probably made some profit by him going to Vancouver and then over to Bayern. So there are some people who will give these kids a break. Um, I think if the player's really good, somehow they'll get noticed somewhere.
Mm.
And coaches still want to win, even though they're not supposed to. They are and they're not, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
And so a coach might raise some money for a player that can't afford it and somehow get him in. But that's all done on the side. It's not. Yeah, it has to happen kind of on the side where someone helps or parents sees another kid struggling and they can afford it, so they might pay for part of their registration. So, but somehow I think we're finding that players are making their way up to our national team. Our national team is doing pretty well right now.
So, John, I'm curious. What inspired you to write The Last 9 Seconds, and then as a connection here, or as a byproduct, I guess, how did your background as a goalkeeper influence your perspective?
Yeah, so as a goalkeeper at university there, I was also coaching. I started coaching quite young. So every time I'd be in training and teaching our strikers how to score, it was pretty simple because I knew my weaknesses and knew what a goalie could and couldn't do. So over 4, 5, 6 years, my strikers were very good at scoring. One won the title for top scorer, which got him a tryout with the Toronto Blizzard of the old North American Soccer League, and he actually got called up very quickly. The reserve team at the time, he scored like 5 goals in 3 games, and next thing you know, he's training with the first team. He couldn't play because they had to be officially drafted. So that winter, it was 84, he was going to be the first round draft choice of the Toronto Blizzard. Unfortunately, the league folded that winter. So that kid ended up trying out for the Cleveland Force, and then he got injured. Um, so that was disappointing. That was a depressing moment for I think any young player trying to play pro soccer. It wasn't as easy as it is now to go to Europe because they had a restriction on import. And but then it was I guess a few years later when our national team, Canada, got to the final 6, and the top 3 get to the World Cup. And I thought we had a decent team, but as I'm watching players miss scoring chances, of course we did not qualify. I was so upset. I think it was for the '98 World Cup that we didn't qualify and we had a good chance, but mostly because I think we missed simple scoring chances, bad decisions. And I said, man, there's got to be a better way to teach goal scoring. Because I'm a keeper, I know what it takes to score on me. So I started experimenting with different things with my son and some of the teams I was with at the time. Different things because from a goalkeeper's perspective, you get a player who can kick, pass, shoot, got all the skills, head. Um, why are they missing obvious chances? Why are they not taking chance? going on in the brain of the player. I mean, we can all watch highlights and after the fact say, oh, yeah, he should have shot or he should have aimed here or whatever. But, they'd make bad decisions the last second. And I saw this as a keeper. So many times I'd be sitting there praying that they don't shoot or they hit me or miss the net. And they would completely mess up. And I'd kind of go, oh, thank God. They didn't score because they would have scored if they had done the right thing. As I studied this, and also, I took phys ed and sports psychology and all that, and I started blend everything together and try different things. Also, there's a course I took, it's called Perception. My professor was Dr. Ian Howard, who actually worked for NASA. And I guess he looked at working in non-gravity and perception, what you see, where your eyes get fooled quite often, your brain gets fooled. And so that's the kind of stuff that got me thinking, there might be a better way I can help a player who's in a scoring position make a better decision. And as I experimented on that, I found that there's a lot of things that I could do that work better. Also using biomechanics, reading motion of your nearest defenders, the goalkeeper, all that stuff. And then I put it to the test, found that, oh my gosh, it's working. So I stopped running courses that I kind of developed to write the book. That's kind of how it all started.
And share with my audience the concept, or the core concept of the last 9 seconds. Why the last 9 seconds?
Well, basically, it's less than 9 seconds. Sometimes there's those last 1 or 2 seconds in your last touch, the very last touch. I wanted to focus on, that last touch, the ball in the net. And then, there's a bit of planning for that last touch. So I picked 9 seconds because if you look at the goal Maradona scored against England in '86 World Cup, he took the ball at center field and pretty much dribbled through the whole team. I think they called the goal of the century, which I did mention in the book. It took about 9 seconds for him to score that goal. So I just said, 9 seconds sounds catchy. Could have been 10, 11. Most goals, it's those last 2 or 3 seconds. What's going on in the mind of the player, 9 seconds before an opportunity developed. And that's why I picked.
Now, you open the book in part one, literally chapter 1, coaching the psychological aspects of scoring goals. What, for your research, what are the most common psychological barriers that prevent players from scoring, and how can coaches kind of help them overcome those those psychological barriers?
Yeah, there's different parts, I guess. Part of the psychology is that so much pressure in today's game in the striker to score goals. So sometimes you've gone a few games without scoring, and your coach is questioning whether you should be moved to another position or benched. The media, if you're playing at a higher level, the fans. So there's that kind of stress and pressure. And then you start to get down on yourself, let's say, and try too hard or do the wrong things. So there's that type of aspect of goal scoring, of the pressure of the position to score. Then there's the like the actual, what do I do in this moment? So, and reading players who are near you, biomechanics. So there's so many different things, but certainly, being in the zone. So I talk about that. In a way, I think if I look at a lot of the coaches that I coach against, and I say the youth game is 14 and up in this book. And when I look at a lot of the coaches that coach, maybe they haven't done university degrees in psychology, sports psychology, learning about the zone, the flow experience, biomechanics, all that stuff. They haven't done that. So this book, in a way, summarizes maybe 4 years of university, types of courses on sports psychology and perception and all that, for a coach who hasn't done that. So I think it kind of summarizes that in a way. Um, so that's kind of part of the idea. And then, of course, uh, some of the simple things that I've come up with that make players make better decision. And I have my 4 fundamental golden rules. I don't know if you read that. It's kind of comical in the way I present it.
Mm.
But I think what I try to do in the book is, because it's written for coaches, written for players, is give them the background as to how I came up with my methods. Um, yeah.
Is it, and I probably know the answer to this already. Is it safe to say that psychological readiness is as important as technical skill when it comes to scoring goals? Is that a safe assumption, John?
100%. Yes. It's all in the head, I say. I've seen some players they could juggle a ball 1,000 times and kick and head and run fast and they don't score. And then you see another player who just uh, seems to be in the right spot in the right time and just has their head together, makes good decisions, and next thing you know, they're top goal scorers. Gary Lineker was one of those, I think. You know, there's a good article written by oh geez, the author Simon Cooper, written a number of books, and he interviewed all the top strikers in the Premier League, and he noticed that most of them didn't want to give away too much detail. You know, they kind of had their own little secrets, let's say, and they were very fearful of someone else picking up on these little tidbits of information that might have helped them, and they don't want to share that because it's too easily to be replaced if you don't score. Mm. So it's all about, yeah, in my opinion, scoring. It's all in the head.
Yeah, it's amazing, John. When there's no pressure, the goal is the size of a country. And then when you're in a match, the goal becomes the size of something terribly smaller, much,
Yeah,
much
exactly.
smaller. It's extraordinary. Yeah. Along these same lines, can you share an example of a mental training method that has proven effective for strikers?
Oh, I hate to give away secrets, Giovanni.
Listen, John, it's just you and I talking.
Because it does say the secret. It does say the secret is scoring goals. But I think one of the things is the player. After they do my course, I call it the Golden Goal Scoring Course. Just 20 hours. If they've done it once, it probably lasts them a lifetime. Is that they have to be able to self-analyze. So part of the things are, if let's say, what's the number one technical mistake that a player makes when trying to score? Technical based on skill. If you know the answer to that, then maybe you can self-analyze yourself better. So the answer to that is you take your eyes off the ball last second. And you can see in so many cases where a player who misses when shooting with the foot, that they may have taken their eyes off the ball. So what I did, I actually have a son who's into videography and editing and all that, and he had a good camera when he was learning the trade. And I had him come out to a practice session, get on the ground, and zoom in on the eyeballs of a potential shooter. And sometimes, even though it looks like their head is down and they're keeping their eye on the ball, their eyeballs start to lift before they made final contact, which tells me that they're losing deep concentration on the ball. Because the one thing for sure in soccer is the net's not going to move. The ball is moving almost all the time. So you've got to have deep concentration. A little bit like golf. You lift your head up because you want to see the result, and you can throw your whole body off. So that's a little tidbit of information. I play this little thing is, what are the 4 fundamental rules of scoring? Number 1, direct the ball at the net. Number 2, hit the net. Rule number 3, don't miss the net. Rule number 4, if you're having problems with 1, 2, and 3, go back to 1, direct it at the net, not away from it. So those little tiny things, and I've had coaches say, "Oh, I've used that. It sounds so silly," but it's really helped their players score more goals.
Well, when I'm out there coaching, and a player misses, I say very, very tongue in cheek. It's the big white thing with the netting on it. I'm just here to help. I'm here to help, and they get a good chuckle out of it. And then I would go back to getting serious, try to help them out. So I want to make sure. Go ahead.
I like that because I do think sometimes coaches aren't gotta add a bit of comedy in there sometimes. I think to make something stick.
Well, sure. Yeah,
So I like that. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a game, and I always say this: you should always have an infusion of joy. I don't care if you're coaching 6-year-olds, or in my case, I'm coaching college level players, or even the professional level. And it doesn't minimize the seriousness of a coaching point or a session or whatever the case may be. So sometimes the infusion of a little bit of lighthearted comment can be very healthy, and then you go right back to, okay, why don't you try XYZ? Getting back to your answer there, I want to make sure I get this straight, because that was super fascinating. Are you saying then, John, as a player descends upon the goal and he or she is going to take a shot on goal, that once they've sorted out visually where the goalkeeper is at, they should then focus their eyes literally down to the ball and strike it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, should be on the ball when you're making the last touch. 100%. A little bit like, as I say, like golf. They keep saying keep your eye on the ball. The net's not moving. The defenders, through peripheral vision, and I do go through this in the book. You're able to predict. I kind of give ideas as to how you can predict what the keeper is going to do before the keeper does it. And again, I've come up with some rules so that it's almost, I want the player to, when they finish my course, in baseball, before every pitch or at bat, the manager's giving signals or the catcher's giving the pitcher signals to make decisions based on statistics. So I guess at the end of the course, by reading the book, there's a bunch of rules that are going to help you make the correct decision. So in the case of the goalkeeper, you already know the goalkeeper might be moving. Is the goalkeeper in motion, or is the goalkeeper in a good set and ready position, standing still? So I want the player to already know that before that last. And I have some rules in explaining all that. But one of the big things is chapter, I guess, 67, where I talk about one of the goals and motion of the keeper to make a save. They've got to be set and ready. Before they get in the set and ready position, their muscles are kind of stopping them from, say, falling forward, going backward. Being there, if you shoot early enough, their muscles might be stopping them from, say, falling forward, so they can't do anything. Split second. So, and also the reaction of a keeper. I mean, if you think about it, most saves a goalkeeper makes when the ball's on a penalty spot they're guessing. They're already moving. So it means their reflexes aren't fast enough to stop most shots. Well, play shot. Why do the goalkeepers need a wall for a shot from 25 yards? Well, aren't they fast enough to get to that ball? So, those are some of the considerations. Strikers, maybe you have a bit more of an advantage than you think you do, because the goalkeeper is not fast enough to stop a shot. Well-placed shot can't be a weak pass. So that's kind of the thinking. It's all in the thinking. If I can get the player to feel more confident, I think I know what the goalie's going to do before he does it. I know the defenseman can only stretch so far, so I have space. Because quite often I've seen players in a great shooting position. My defender gets a leg out there, which not going to block the ball, but visually you think it does, and they don't shoot. So
to benefit coaches, how do you recommend coaches kind of individualize, I guess, their approach to training players for scoring opportunities? How might they adjust what they're doing to be more effective, and then by association being able to help their players scoring goals?
Yeah, I mean, they could read the book. Yeah, from you see, even in the course, what I do is I have players play goal, so they see the other side of the coin. Um, so I would recommend to a coach, have them play goalie wars, let's say,
Mm.
and you'll find that all of a sudden those shots that are hard to get to, that are low versus eye level, they're not as easy to stop. Uh, you can get them to play goal in a little, small-sided game sometimes. Say you have two goals that are, I don't know, 36 yards apart, and get a player to play goal so they can see the other side and how hard it is to actually stop a ball on a big goal. That would be one recommendation. And some of the psychological ideas I present in the book, they're not going to work for everybody. You know, every kid, as you know, has a different personality and a different part of what might be covered in this book or in the course works for one player, but doesn't work so well for another player. There's a little section I didn't even want to put in the book about springs. Help a player read motion of a keeper or their nearest defender. I kind of thought that was silly, and then when I got some feedback from one of the players in the course, it said that really helped me the most in the whole course that they took. The concept of using little springs and big springs to help read your nearest defender. And I get a coach in Kansas that he's huge on that. He brings me in every few years to work on his high school team, and he's a goalie himself. Thought that was really effective. So it's finding the right little thing, and you know yourself as a coach that what works with one player, maybe may not work with another. The other thing I would say is if there's a player who's just doing the right things and scoring tons of goals, don't touch them with any of the psychological. They've already figured it out on their own.
Yeah, it's the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Interesting part of your answer there is something that I do quite often. When I'm training the goalkeepers, I train goalkeepers at a local college here in the Boston area. And inevitably, I try to bring in players to help train the goalkeepers. And, I'll obviously ask the head coach, send me your front runners, send me some of your attacking midfielders, people who are in a position literally and figuratively to score goals. And before I even start, the activity which then utilizes the players, I'll say to the players, I'm like, okay, this is goalkeeper training, and you're here to help me train the goalkeepers, but I want you to learn, some of the things that I'm sharing with the goalkeepers, whether it's an angle or save selection or, the closing down a player, any number of things. I said, because the more you know about how the goalkeeper is going to react and function in this situation, the better you can be to possibly score a goal. And the kids, they really like that. They like having that other perspective from the goalkeeper's point of view, from they being the goal scorers. So, yeah, for coaches out there, I would certainly highly recommend, bringing, when you're training goalkeepers, you should use players, because at the end of the day, on game day, there are actually players out there. But yeah, use those goal scorers as part of your training, and the more they can learn from the goalkeeper perspective, the better off they could be.
Yeah. Now, funny enough, in my course that I run, which is, as I say, is about a 20-hour course, I don't use goalkeepers.
Really?
Nope. And
Because
because it's all about the last touch, eyes on the ball, making sure you hit the target. Now, in the classroom sessions, obviously they're during the videos, but because it's a psychological course, I don't use goalkeepers on the field. So 60 to 65% of the course is in the class, and the rest is on the field. And I manage not to use goalkeepers, except when we do our goalie awards where the players are actually.
interesting.
But that's it. Yeah. So, and it works. I mean, I've had players, so many players have gone on to play in the national team for mostly some girls went to Guyanese national team, a Lebanese national team. We have a player who plays on the U.S. National futsal team. Another one, and it all comes from scoring goals, breaking records. Then you get noticed. You score some goals, you get noticed. You can't be ignored. once you put the ball in the net. It's that old story with what's that guy's name from Lee?
No.
Jamie Vardy,
Oh,
right?
Jimmy Vardy. Okay, there you go. Yep.
Playing way down and then finding a way to score goals and then to get noticed. So scoring goals gets you noticed faster than anything else. If any player wants to move up the ranks, score goals. You'll get scholarships offers. You'll get tryouts. That doesn't mean you're good enough to play, but at least you might get that chance that you wouldn't normally get.
Everybody wants a goal scorer. Everybody.
Right.
I don't care what level you're at. Everybody wants a goal scorer. That's very true. To kind of put a capper on our wonderful conversation here, what do you hope readers and coaches will take away from the last 9 seconds to kind of transform their approach to goal scoring?
Well, first of all, just the importance of the mental aspect to a striker. I hope they enjoy reading the book as well because you try and put some funny stories in there. Some good experiences there that I've had and stories. I know in the penalty shots, there was one of our national goalie, probably the youngest ever national goalkeeper, was Paul Dole, Canada in '86. Now he's a broadcaster for our MLS games. And he shared a story with me, which I put in the book. When he played professionally, he knew one of the players he was playing against. So he asked him for the penalty kick, where are you going to aim for? And the guy pointed to the corner. And he actually he stopped the shot because he actually pointed to the corner that he actually did shoot in. And Paul went up to him and said, "Well, thanks for being honest." That's so I have a lot of little stories, tidbits of information and stories and stuff like that. Hopefully they enjoy it. There's a lot of pictures, and that was one of the things that maybe made the book a little bit more expensive. Is buy pictures that show split seconds that I needed to find. It wasn't easy. I had Les Jones, one of the top Canadian photographers, provide a lot of pictures for me. But then I had to go to Reuters and find some more because you're looking for split seconds, and so there's lots of photos and diagrams in the book.
But it adds. I mean, I have the book right in front of me here. It adds to the point you're making in the book. It's no question. It makes everything complimentary. So. Well, our guest today on the GP Soccer Podcast, Conversation with the Coach, has been the terrific John DeBenedictis. He is the author of The Last 9 Seconds, The Secrets to Scoring Goals on the Last Touch. John, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule for being on the GP Soccer Podcast.
Bonnie, thanks very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, as always. My pleasure, as always. This is Giovanni Pacini. This is the GP Soccer Podcast. You all know that. Coach's Conversation with the Coach.
I know you took one of the golden scoring course by John DeBenedictis. How did that course help you help shape your success today?
Yeah, I was hoping we would talk about it because it actually is really astonishing the level of improvement you can see after a week of doing it. I'm not over exaggerating that, particularly with me. Technically finishing wise, like, can I curve a ball? Can I strike one well? Can I place it where I wanted to? Was never an issue for me. But I've gone through bouts where I've definitely struggled finishing. And so there's a huge mental side to the finishing game, which is like where the benefit of John's course comes in. And I still remember those things and still use them. And I run a once a week extra like finishing school for the club I do out here. and I read John's book and I try to incorporate as much as I can into it because I'm like, I know this to be true and I know it works. So I try to deliver that message around as much as I can. That the year that I took it was before my senior year of high school, and I scored 29 goals that season. There's just a certain confidence that comes with knowing you're making the right choice when you're trying to finish. And that way, when you miss, there's no spiral. You go, no, that was the right call. I didn't score that one, but that was the right call to make. And so there's something about that confidence that helps you. I'd actually like to do it again. I might have to bring John out of St. Louis. And the other thing for John, I would love to see is if he could redo the statistics for indoor and futsal. I'd be curious if the same applies, because there's some differences I've noticed that I've had to change a little. So I'd love to see a different set of stats and see what the conclusions came out with the smaller goal and tighter spaces and things like that.